Hello, children. Let's continue come September. So, we were talking about 1973 military coup in Chile. In 1999, following the arrest of General Pinochet in Britain, thousands of secret documents were declassified by the US government. Pinochet was responsible for numerous human rights violations and he died in 2006. Before that, he was arrested in London in the year 1998. The British government released him in 2000. The secret documents were officially declared that it is no longer secret by the US government. The CIA has given his government to go ahead to murder one American writer according to one newly declassified document. The documents contained unequivocal evidence of the CIA, its involvement in the coup, as well as the fact that the US government had detailed information about the situation in Chile during General Pinochet's reign. I explained this point in the last class. The Central Intelligence Agency got the information about the military coup of September in the months of June, July, August of 1973 itself. Yet Kissinger assured the General Office support. In the United States, as you know, we are sympathetic to what you are trying to do, he said. We wish your government well. United States supported this military coup. The US government supported the dictatorship. Those of us who have only ever known lived in a democracy, however flawed, would find it hard to imagine what living in a dictatorship and enduring the absolute loss of freedom means. Arundhati Roy says that a person lived in a democratic government will find it hard even to imagine to live in the reign of a dictatorship, live in a period of to live under dictatorship, and to endure a state where we don't have any freedom. It is really hard to live under a dictator ruler. You'll always be scared. Strict rules will be there. You may not be able to express your views. It is not just those who Pinochet murdered, but the lives he stole from the living that must be accounted for too. Pinochet was arrested at the age of 82. He was on house arrest for 1 year and a half and he was released by 2000. He was not convicted. Arundhati Roy in 2002, she says that he has to give account for people who have people he murdered and also about the dear ones of the dead people. Sadly, Chile was not the only country in South America to be singled out for the US government's attentions. But she says Chile was not the only country in South America to be spoken about for the US government's attentions. Guatemala, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Brazil, Peru, Dominican Republic, Bolivia, Nicaragua, Honduras, Panama, El Salvador, Peru, Mexico, Colombia, they have all been the playground for covert and overt operations by the CIA. CIA had conducted several operations, the secret and the plain operations in many South American countries. Under the disguised working or under the disguised power of CIA, with the backing of US, hundreds of thousands of Latin Americans have been killed, tortured, or have simply disappeared under the despotic regimes that were propped up in their countries. Military coups have repeatedly interrupted in many South American countries backed by CIA. She continues, if this were not humiliation enough, the people of South America have had to bear the cross of being branded as people who are incapable of democracy, as if coups and massacres are somehow encrypted in their genes. As Chilean people were labeled as irresponsible, these people, Henry Kissinger said that Chilean people are irresponsible, they are not allowed to go Marxist. Same like that, the other countries, other people are also labeled as incapable of democracy and initiated and put forward the coups and massacres in the South American countries. The list doesn't, of course, include countries in Africa or Asia that suffered US military interventions. Vietnam suffered, Korea suffered, Indonesia suffered, Laos suffered under US military interventions, Cambodia suffered US military interventions, Vietnam War. When China became communist towards 1950s, and communists were in control of North Vietnam, and USA afraid that communism would spread to South Vietnam also, then the whole Asia, and they sent money, supplies and military advisors to help South Vietnamese government. The war between North Vietnam and South Vietnam, and South United States backed South Vietnam. The war lasted for almost 20 years. Direct US involvement entered in 1973. Laosian Civil War was there, Cambodian Civil War was there, and that all ended in 1975, and America was involved in it. Arundhati Roy asked, for how many Septembers, for decades, for years together, have millions of Asian people been bombed and burned and slaughtered? She raises the Hiroshima Nagasaki attack. How many Septembers have gone by since August 1945, when hundreds of thousands of ordinary Japanese people were obliterated by the nuclear strikes in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? It has been 56 years now after the atomic attack. The citizens, people were wiped out from the country, from earth. Lakhs of people was dead and injured. And she continues to ask, for how many Septembers have the thousands who had the misfortune of surviving those strikes endured that living hell that was visited on them? Their unborn children, their children's children on the earth, the sky, water, wind, and all the creatures that swim and walk and crawl and fly. The atomic bomb disasters would have long lasting, serious effects on the people and the environment. And she is asking for how many Septembers they have endured. She states that not far from here in Albuquerque is the National Atomic Museum, where Fat Man and Little Boy, the affectionate nicknames for the bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, were available as souvenir earrings. Albuquerque, located in New Mexico, near to Santa Fe, in the National Atomic Museum, Fat Man and Little Boy are also available as earrings. The small models of the atomic bombs that destroyed the whole country is available as earrings there. Funky young people wore them as fashion, a massacre dangling in each ear. But I am straying from my theme. It's September that we are talking about, not August. September 11th has a tragic resonance in the Middle East too. On the 11th of September 1922, ignoring Arab outrage, the British government proclaimed a mandate in Palestine. a follow up to the 1917 Balfour Declaration, which Imperial Britain issued with its army massed outside the gates of Gaza. The Balfour Declaration promised European Zionists a national home for Jewish people. At the time, the empire on which the sun never set was free to snatch and bequeath national homes like a school bully distributes marbles. In 1917, in the Balfour Declaration, it stated that the British government in 1917 announced the establishment of National Home for the Jewish People. They announced their support for the establishment of National Home for the Jewish people in Palestine. Balfour Declaration promised the European supporters for the development of the Jewish nation. The British government was also passed in September, in the month of September. In the imperial power, the countries were divided. How carelessly imperial power vivisected ancient civilizations. Palestine and Kashmir are Imperial Britain's festering blood-drenched gifts to the modern world. At the time of independence, India and Pakistan is divided and Kashmir has become an issue between the two countries. Lot of lives have lost in the issue. Arundhati Roy says that it is the blood-drenched gift to the modern world by the Imperial Britain. Both are fault lines in the raging international conflicts of today. In 1937, Winston Churchill said of the Palestinians, I quote, Arundhati Roy quotes, I do not agree that the dog in a manger has the final right to the manger, even though he may have lain there for a very long time. Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1940 to 1945, he said about Palestinians like this. He compared it to the dog. Even though a dog lies in the manger, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു തൊഴുത്തിൽ അതുപോലത്തെ ഒരു സ്ഥലത്ത് കുറേ നാളായിട്ട് അവിടെ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിലും അതിൻ്റെ ആ ഒരു മാങ്കറിൻ്റെ ഓണർ അതാണെന്ന് ഒരിക്കലും പറയാനായിട്ട് പറ്റില്ല. He says that the dog cannot have the final right to the manger. I do not agree that the dog in a manger has the final right to the manger, even though he has stayed there for a longer time. I do not admit that right. I do not admit, for instance, that a great wrong has been done to the Red Indians of America or the black people of Australia. അമേരിക്കയിലും ഓസ്ട്രേലിയയിലൊക്കെ അവിടെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന നേറ്റീവ്സിനെ ഒപ്രസ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് അവിടെ വൈറ്റ് സെറ്റിലേഴ്സാണ് അവിടെ വന്ന് താമസിച്ചത്. Then it became a white country. Winston Churchill says that there was no wrong done to these people. Why he is saying so? By the fact that a stronger race, a higher grade race, a superior race, a more worldly wise race came there. Civilized race, to put it that way, has come in and taken their place. He is actually negating the identity of these Red Indians and settlers of Australia, native people of the countries, is negating the identities. The wise men came there and they settled there. There is no wrong point in that. A race, higher grade race, white race people came there and settled there. No wrong has been done to the native settlers there. Ends quote. And Arundhati Roy continues, that set the trend for the Israeli state's attitude towards the Palestinians. In 1969, Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir said Palestinians do not exist. Not caring about the existence of these people, her successor, Prime Minister Levi Eshkol said, "What are Palestinians? When I came here to Palestine, there were 250,000 non Jews, mainly Arabs and Bedouins. In Palestine, there are only non Jews, especially Arabs and people living like nomads in desert areas. They were living there. It was a desert more than underdeveloped, nothing." Another Prime Minister, Menachem Begin, the Israeli politician, he called Palestinians two-legged beast. Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir called them grasshoppers who could be crushed. This is the language of heads of state, not the words of ordinary people. In 1947, UN formally partitioned Palestine and allotted 55% of Palestine's land to the Zionist, the supporter of Jewish people. Within a year, they had captured 76%. So, 76% of the Palestine was under Zionist. On the 14th of May 1948, the State of Israel was declared. They believed they are the race which are directly from the God. Minutes after the declaration, United States recognized Israel. The West Bank was annexed by Jordan. The West Bank place was annexed by Jordan. Gaza Strip is a Palestinian area came under Egyptian military control, and formally Palestine ceased to exist except in the minds and hearts of the hundreds of thousands of Palestinian people who became refugees. In 1967, Israel occupied the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. In 1948, the Palestine area was divided into Israel, West Bank, and Gaza Strip. In 1967, Israel occupied West Bank and Gaza Strip. In the Balfour Declaration, the British government ignored Arab outrage and they declared a national home for the Jewish people. Later, it became as Israel. 1948 State of Israel was declared. And a lot of people, Palestinian people, Arab people, Palestinian Arabs became refugees. In the mandate, in the document, Britain administrative control was there in the region, Palestine. And they also included support for establishing a Jewish national homeland. In 1947, UN partitioned Palestine. When these countries were getting divided, people are getting affected. Imperial power, as said by Arundhati Roy, imperial power vivisected ancient civilizations. Palestine and Kashmir are Imperial Britain's festering blood-drenched gifts to the modern world. Countries were divided for their interest. So children, I am stopping here. Let's continue with the essay come September in our next class. Thank you.